According to a new study funded by the National Institutes of Health, a substance in red meat may help toxins from certain types of E. coli target human cells, increasing the risk of illness. Here to tell us more about this is certified nutritionist Cynthia Sass from New York. Welcome, Cynthia. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Can you first tell us a little bit about this new study?
Yes, this study was done at the University of California, San Diego, and basically what it found is that there's a substance in red meat that's actually a part of the natural anatomy of non-human mammals, and when you eat that red meat, the substance gets into your body and it basically sticks to your cells. And then if you're exposed to E. coli, this substance, which is sort of now attached to your cells, attracts the toxins that are produced by E. coli, which can make you a lot more sick. So there's just another indicator that you might want to cut back on your red meat consumption. Too much red meat has been linked to about a 20 to 30% increase in the risk of certain cancers, including lung cancer and colorectal cancer. So it's just something that we want to be aware of.
Sure, and that news is especially disturbing considering the recent outbreaks of E. coli that we've seen in this country.
Absolutely, and if you're a high-risk group, if you're an older adult, you're a child, you're a pregnant woman, it's even more serious.
And so how much is too much red meat?
Well, according to the American Institute for Cancer Research, they put the cap on it at 18 ounces a week. Now, 6 ounces is about the size of 2 decks of cards in thickness and in width. So if you imagine going out to a restaurant and you get a steak, it could be 18 ounces right there. So 18 ounces a week is the kind of what you want to keep in mind, and I think it's a good visual to use a deck of cards. That's about 3 ounces right there. So every time you have a serving of red meat, think about a deck of cards, and I think that limiting at that per meal is a good idea.
But you know, Cynthia, there are so many people that are told to eat more red meat by their doctors. You know, pregnant women, that they need iron. So what would you tell those people?
Well, if you want to keep red meat in your diet, which you certainly may want to do, and it is a good source of iron and zinc and protein, it can be very lean, but you want to look for 2 words when you're shopping for the red meat. You want to look for the words loin and round. So things like sirloin and eye of round, those are the leanest cuts, and actually trimming the visible fat on the red meat can cut the fat intake by about 50%. And then cooking it with lean types of cooking methods like stewing it or grilling it is another good thing. If you're going to grill, definitely marinate, because the substances that are also known carcinogens that are produced when meat is grilled can be reduced by almost 100% by marinating the meat, even just for 30 minutes before you cook it.
Wow, I had no idea. That's actually really good advice. Right. And are there some substitutes for red meat that have some similar nutritional qualities?
Well, you know what? This is very interesting. A recent Johns Hopkins study found that replacing ground beef with chopped mushrooms was, in just one meal, was able to cut calories by 400 and cut fat grams by 30. That is really significant. And then what was really interesting about this study was the mushroom eaters reported being just as full and satisfied, and they didn't compensate by eating more calories later in the day. So in your tacos, your burritos, your pizza, you know, your stuffed peppers, you can put chopped mushrooms in place of meat. And the great thing about mushrooms, they only have 15 calories per cup sliced. A cup is about the size of a baseball, so that's very low. And they're a great source of selenium, which is a major antioxidant, and they're very high in immune-boosting zinc, which is also found in red meat. They're not very high in protein, but you can also do half and half. If you want to mix half ground beef and half mushrooms, that's another great idea.
Was there a particular type of mushroom used in the study, or any mushroom will do?
Any kind of mushrooms you want.
Well, that's good to know. I love mushrooms. So.
Me too.
That's good news. Now, how can reducing red meat help your overall health?
It definitely can help with the environment, because of course it takes a lot of natural resources to produce meat in comparison to, say, beans or something that's a plant-based food. Red meat can be very high in saturated fat, which we know is a major booster of the bad cholesterol in your body and ups your risk of heart disease, the #1 killer of men and women. Of course, it contains cholesterol like all animal foods do. I think a really important thing to keep in mind, though, for cancer in particular, is that when you have your red meat, keep to the 3 ounces, the deck of cards, and always combine that or pair that with at least 1 baseball of vegetables, because research shows that having just 1 additional baseball or cup of vegetables per day can cut your cancer risk by up to 20%. And then when you cook those vegetables or you prepare them, you want to include a little bit of plant-based fat. Maybe you have a salad with olive oil, you saute your vegetables in some kind of healthy plant oil, or maybe you have guacamole with your beef fajitas, because you will boost the antioxidant absorption of those vegetables by 10% or more, or 10 times or more, excuse me. So you get 10 to 15 times more antioxidants out of those vegetables, which are major cancer preventers and protectors in your body. So.
Okay, and Cynthia, I have something really want to ask you about, because I buy organic grass-fed meat, and I want to know whether you think that really makes a difference, and what exactly does that mean?
I absolutely think it does make a difference. On the negative side, it can be a lot more expensive.
That's for sure.
And right now, I know people are really pinching their pennies, especially when it comes to the supermarket. But if you can afford it, and even if you just buy organic grass-fed red meat, and you just buy it less often, and you eat more plant-based proteins other times, that can be a great idea. It is much leaner, and there's some research to show that it actually is higher in some really key important nutrients. The way the animals are fed, they're fed all vegetarian feed. The feed is produced with no chemical pesticides or fertilizers. The animals are leaner and healthier themselves, and so of course that produces a healthier product that we put into our bodies.
Well, I'm glad to hear that it makes a difference, because I also think that it tastes better.
Yeah, so. A lot of people do say that. It's very interesting that what the animal eats is going to be reflected in how the meat tastes. So if the animal's eating much healthier and the animal's healthier itself, it probably is going to taste a lot different.
I think so. Well, thank you so much, Cynthia, for that insight into red meat. I'll never look at a hamburger the same way again.